Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of A Lot of You Have Been Asking. I am so excited for today's guest because we go way back. She is not only a friend, but she was my very first boss. Robbin Mangano is here. Hi, Robbin.
Hi guys. Hi.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks. I'm so excited. I walked in here and I was so impressed and very proud of you, Hayden.
This is like such a full circle moment to be like interviewing you on the podcast. And a month or two ago, I had moderated a panel that you were on. Mm-hmm. And I feel like now this is just like another step to like reconnecting and getting to talk about all of the things we did together. It's been a whirlwind.
It brought back a lot of memories when we were at that event, and just even you asking the questions, like, I will say, felt a little bizarre. Yeah. I was like, you know what, we're gonna roll with it.
I know it's very weird because I feel like I learned so much from you over the years about this industry, about social media influencing in general, but also just about like running a business in general. Mm-hmm. To give people like full context, Robbin was my first boss at my first job out of college. We met, I want to say probably 2017?
I think so. I think it was, 2017. I'm
8 years ago?
I always do like the math of when my daughter was born. And yeah, it was probably like a year before that.
Yeah. And do you remember our first meeting?
I like do, but I don't. Yeah, I feel like I blacked out a little.
I did probably too. I know we met at Seabird Coffee on the South Shore.
Yes.
Because I had applied to a job at your company, and then you had seen a post of mine.
Yes. I just feel like I saw this Instagram post that you had shared, and it made me laugh so hard. I was like, even if from a technical perspective, Hayden can't do this, he's like a really good culture fit. And honestly, I read that post and I was like, done. He doesn't even need to come to this interview. I'm hiring him.
Well, I'm glad I could be the culture hire for the time being. And then we had many iterations of working together over the years. What was I like as an employee?
You were a very good employee. I think that you took direction very well. You were like one of those people that was totally down to wear like any hat, which I think is so important, especially when starting a new business. You know, there was so many moving parts when I first started the agency, you know, from like growing the business to a business partner breakup, a lot of like highs, a lot of lows. And it's actually one thing that I love about you is that you you did stick with me through all of these like ups and downs with the business that are very normal for when you go on this entrepreneurial journey. And so I kind of loved that you just went with the flow. You know, if all of a sudden one day I was like, hey, we're actually going to be doing this, which is not anything that has to do with your job description or job title, you were like, all right, let's go.
But I feel like, too, that was like the perfect first role for me to have because like you are just kind of thrown in, and that's why I learned so much and like absorbed so much information from you, and specifically about this industry. Like I want to go back to before you were a business owner, before you ran this company. What were you doing before that like led you to starting the company?
Do you want to go back to like post college?
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Like you were working in PR.
Yes. So this was back in 2010. I had graduated college. You know, this was at a very hard time in our economy. Like, you know, the 2008, 2009 was just like horrible. I honestly felt so bad for a lot of my friends that had graduated the year prior. Everyone was having such a hard time finding jobs. And so now 2010 came along. I had graduated. I had a public relations, broadcast degree. And this was, again, back in the days when people would, like, search for jobs on Craigslist versus LinkedIn.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yes. So I'm, like, living at home, like, spending every single night till, like, 10 p.m., 11 p.m. at night, like, looking at Craigslist listings, like, dying to get out of my family's house and get a job. And I had come across this role that was listed as, like, a junior publicist at a broadcast studio in Stamford, Connecticut. And I applied. At the time, I didn't know anything about PR. I thought that I wanted to go into broadcast journalism. Okay. But I had learned very quickly that if you want to go into broadcast journalism, you needed to go and like move to like a top 50 to 100 like media market, and like I was not moving to like Timbuktu.
No.
Like, I just was not.
I don't think you would
I was
thrive
like
there.
New York or nothing.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? I'm going to pivot before my career even starts, and I am going to go and look for a job in PR. A lot of the things that I learned about broadcast journalism could transfer over really well into a public relations role, and so that's why I applied for that job.
Yeah.
I applied for the job, I end up going to interview for it, and I walk into the studio, and I learned that it is a junior publicist role for Jerry Springer.
Incredible.
Yes, incredible. Maury, Judge Judy, Steve Wilkos.
My dream.
And I was like, wow, okay, this is where I'm going. And to be honest, I was like, all right, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have any other options at the moment.
No.
But I also found it to be really interesting. I loved the world of production, what kind of went on behind the scenes. Did I agree with like the subject of the show? No. But I learned so much.
Yeah.
I mean, first week we were going to like Wendy Williams, we were going to the Today Show,
That's so cool.
we were going to like Pix 11 News in New York. Granted, it would be at like 5 a.m. and I was like, damn, this
is intense.
This is intense. But it was Jerry's 20th anniversary, so we were doing this like massive media tour. And so as my first role in job at all, like post-college, it was incredible. I learned so much, and I learned how to like grind on almost like no pay. I think my salary in 2010, no vacation, no health insurance. I was paid $28,000.
Wow.
And so, yeah, that's obviously why I had to live at home as well.
That'll do it.
Eventually, I actually didn't know if PR was the right role for me. The days were very long. Again, like the pay was not great. And I was like, is this what I want to do for the rest of my life? So I ended up getting a new job in New York City. I went and worked for a photo studio, completely different role.
Yeah.
Like, literally, like, I went from, like, a publicist for, like, daytime talk show hosts to now working at a photo studio. I was, like, ordering lunches, like, telling models what studio to go to. If they needed, like, props for a photo shoot, they would send me to, like, the prop shop to go get them.
Just
very
like
different.
things.
Yes. It was, again, like, I would just do whatever they told me to do. That was very fun. That was for 2 years in New York City, and that's when I was like living my best New York City life.
Of course, you have to.
No responsibilities. I was making like way more money. I was so happy. But then at that time, I started dating my now husband, and we just both like kind of got this itch to, I don't know, see what was else in the world. We both grew up in New England. We had both gone to college in South Carolina. We were both back in New York and Boston, and I just like was desperate to see what else was out there.
Yeah.
So again, career pivot.
The theme.
Not even, this one wasn't like a career pivot by choice.
No.
Again, it was like just finding a job.
Yeah.
So we decided to move to San Diego, and there was a music agency there that was looking for an agent assistant, and I was like, well, I should try that.
Yeah, might as well throw my hat in the ring.
So I go become a music agent assistant, learn everything there is about like booking DJs and bands and learning about the hospitality industry in San Diego and Los Angeles. And that was a fun little stint as well. That was a year. Then this kind of now brings me to like the rest of my career in life. After I was at the music agency, I kind of had an epiphany, and I was like, you know what? I think I do want to work in public relations.
Like, let me go back to that first gig.
It took a few, steps to get there.
Yeah.
But I was like, you know what? What happened was I was at a news station. One of our clients at the music agency was being interviewed. And while I was there, I was like, wow, I just miss this environment so much. Like the breaking news, having to pitch stories to journalists, seeing the story unfold.
No days the
on
same.
TV. Exactly. Nothing was the same. And so I had applied for a role at a PR agency in San Diego. I got it, and day one, I just felt like it was my calling. Like I just was thriving.
Yeah.
I loved it so much. It was like all I could think about. I was like eating, breathing, like PR and news. And I was just loving my career so much. And
Which
that's
is
when
like
I knew.
atypical, I feel like, too, at that
Yes.
point. Like, not everybody, like, loves their job.
No,
like
and
that.
at that point I was 25. I had already, which is crazy to
Yeah,
think.
that you've lived so many lives before
I had
then.
already gone through exactly. I had, what was it? The first job at the studio, then the New York City studio, then the music agency.
Yeah, so
then
you
the
had
PR.
really lived
So
many
I was on like
lives.
job 4.
Yeah.
But at the time, it didn't feel like I was like hopping around. But I
No.
really was trying to find what I loved, and I realized in that moment I loved public relations. So again, just being so restless. My husband and I, or at the time, he became my fiance. We were planning our wedding, and we were like, all right, you know what? We're planning a wedding back on the East Coast. We've been in San Diego for 3 years now. I think it's time to head home.
Yeah.
We had our fun. So
Life's over.
yes, we're getting married. We're done. So we moved back to Boston. I get another job at a PR agency. Again, loving it. I'm working with like the best restaurants in Boston, the best chefs. Booking like this TV segment here, this interview with Food and Wine. It was like peak for me.
And I feel like you were like networking and making so many connections during
Oh my
that time
gosh.
too. Like that's what the industry really is like just
Truly.
making millions of connections.
Oh, it was like dinners every night, like wining and dining journalists. That was when like influencers really started to pop onto the scene. So trying to navigate this like new world of influencers, the traditional food media did not like the new food bloggers that
I'm
were
sure.
taking over. So we really had to balance those relationships. Like if we had a dinner and we wanted to invite influential folks in Boston to come, we would have to split it into 2 nights because you just couldn't mix the media and the influencers. Like they just didn't
Which
match.
is so funny.
No, exactly.
It makes total sense. Because
Yes.
if I was traditional media, I'd be like, who
I
are
know.
these bitches coming in?
Right. I understood though.
Yeah.
These were editors, writers, journalists who had, 5, 10, 15 years of experience. They had degrees. They were professionals. This was their career. And then all of a sudden you have this food blogger with 100,000 followers come in and kind of like upstage them. And, all of a sudden realize like your readers are now actually looking at their content, the influencers' content for dining recommendations,
Yeah.
and maybe not so much our magazine anymore. Granted, clients always wanted the legitimacy of like a media placement, so that I don't think will ever be lost. But I mean, if you wanted to get a full room of reservations on like day 1, then you were inviting like Boston foodies to come and cover your restaurant, and then that would happen, in 24 hours.
It's so interesting that you were there, like seeing that shift happen in real time.
Absolutely. It was like they were crowning a new king, to be honest. Like that's how it felt. And that the old king was not happy.
The
at
old
all.
regime was
Yes,
gone.
they were not happy.
Yeah.
So after a few years at that agency, again, I feel like I'm a very like restless person. I just have to be like kind of changing and learning and knowing how to, do new things. And I realized this dream I had when I was younger. Both my parents like owned their own businesses and were entrepreneurs, and I just felt like I had it in me one day to do that myself. So that's what I did. One day, and I think it was like August, I was like, you know what? I think I want to start my own agency. And then by September, I had quit, and by October, we had our first few clients, and then kind of like a rocket ship, it took off.
The rest is history.
Yes. So that was a very long story, but...
No, but it's cool because, like, I feel like everything that you did led you to be good at what you were then doing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, each piece of it really complemented coming into the agency well.
Yes.
And then you learned a whole other mixed bag of things once you were there.
Yes.
Owning a business is its own beast.
That, I will say, is insane.
Yeah.
I think there is this, misinterpretation that, like, you see someone, like, thriving as a business owner. Again, it's like this highlight reel on Instagram. Look at this, look at that. We're doing so well. New client, new hire, new office. But then, like, you don't know that, like, me would wake up at, like, 5 a.m. in the morning and just, like, go and grab my phone and just, like, hold my breath and hope that there was, like, not an
Nothing.
angry email from a client, or that someone was, like, putting in their notice, or that like the landlord this is a true story, like went bankrupt and we no longer had an office. So like those were like the things that I was like, God, like I would wake up in the morning and be like, please, no bad news, no bad news, no bad news.
Well, those are the things that you don't think about when owning a business because they're not talked about, because it's all like this like girl boss culture where it's like just hustle and make money and do XYZ, but there's so much that goes on behind the scenes that people don't even realize. Like I wasn't even in tune to those things when I was working with you.
Yes.
And you were having to deal with all of that, plus manage people, plus actually do your job and help run the agency. So when did you decide to kind of take a step back from agency life and pursue your own thing again?
So I realized at one point, we had the agency. At that point, there was about 10 employees. We had a beautiful office in South Boston. It's still there. And I had felt like I had done everything right. We had amazing clients. We had the photo studio. We were getting new contracts all the time. Our clients were signing year-long contracts every single year for years. Some of our clients had been with us for 3, 4, 5, 6 years, which I think is a testament to our work in the agency and the work that we were doing for them and our relationships. But we also had this one client, an NBA player, that I just loved the work that we were doing. It was by far the most exciting work that we were doing. Just for me as a career, I set goals for myself every year, and I felt like all of my biggest goals would be accomplished with this one client. Like Today's Show or the cover of a magazine, so I felt like I could take my business owner hat off and become a publicist again with this client. So because of that, I had a really hard time delegating work from this one specific client to our team because I was almost like a little selfish. Like I wanted to do it myself because I just got so much enjoyment out of like accomplishing something with this client that I just almost wouldn't let anyone else in, which probably was like a detriment. But at the same time, I just was like, this is the work that excites me the most.
Yeah, if it's fueling you, you might as well let it.
Like I would, again, that story of like waking up in the morning and looking at my phone, I would be, of course, scrolling and making sure there was like no bad news. But then all of a sudden I would see like an email. I just use this as an example because it is always so exciting. But like I would see an email from like a producer at the Today Show saying, hey, we want your client to come into the studio and do an interview with Hoda. And I would be like floored.
Yeah.
I'd be like, yes, fuck yes. Like this is the way I want to start my day. And so it just was so exciting for me. And so at this point, I had 2 children. And so now, on top of owning the business, really kind of focusing on this one client as well and 2 children, I felt like I was very used to wearing multiple hats, but I almost felt like at this point I was wearing too many hats. Like it was like, I felt like I was literally going to fall over.
Yeah.
And so I kind of did like a analysis of my life. And I was like, what is bringing me the most joy right now? And I realized like it was this work that I was doing for my client where I really could wear the publicist hat. It was what, excited me every day. I would go to photo shoots, interviews, and it did not feel like work. And it still does not feel like work. Like I find so much joy in this role. And I was like, also, it was like this math problem. I could honestly make more money working with this one client than I was running the agency and paying myself last.
Yeah.
I think that is something that, business owners have to realize, especially small business owners, if they're about to start a business, is that you have to pay every expense first before you pay yourself. So salaries, health insurance, rent, if the studio camera breaks, you have to pay all this first before you take home a paycheck for yourself.
Yeah.
And I just was a little over that. I felt like working so hard to then really not be paying myself as much as I felt like I should have been at that point in my career. And then I also felt like because I was wearing all these hats, I just wasn't spending as much quality time with my kids. And I felt so much mom guilt. And so, again, I woke up one day and was like, you know what? I need to go and do what's going to find me joy. And it's working with this client, being with my kids more, and then honestly, like helping raise, or not raise, that's not the right word, but like bring up this next generation of business owners. And so that's why I had approached 3 women at the agency, and I felt very confident that if I had said to them, you guys are like, you're the next generation of this agency. I think that you could take all my mistakes that we have learned from and just do it 10 times better and have it be 3 people making decisions instead of just 1.
Yeah, that's a lot of weight on your shoulders.
Yes, but I felt like that was the right way the agency should go. And that's what we did.
Yeah.
And it has worked out phenomenally. And I love to see where the agency is now.
Yeah.
And I am like so happy and grounded in this new role that I have.
You're able to spend more time with your kids and your family.
Gosh,
like,
yes.
I remember there was not much like of a work-life balance for like a while, and I feel like it's so refreshing to see you living that now. And you have so many, like, I feel like new passion projects too that you're really excited about.
Yes.
So it's exciting for me as just like a friend and a follower of yours, because you're also leaving out that you are an influencer and a creator yourself.
Yes.
Like, so you have that side gig going on too.
Yes.
Now you have this new community of book club, Sunday reading.
Yes.
Tell us about Sunday reading.
Okay, but before we go into Sunday reading, I have some questions for you.
Oh, okay. Tell me. Flip it on me. Let's go.
So you obviously were an employee through all of this.
Yeah.
And again, like you were an employee at a small business that was just starting, that had so many ups and downs, like business partner breakups, losing our office because the company that we were renting from went bankrupt and locked the door. It was a keypad. I didn't even have a physical key to get into our office. Obviously, like the pandemic, the rise of your own social media, you as an employee, like, I don't know, like how did you feel through that whole journey?
I mean, it was difficult to navigate because it was also my first real job. So I just assumed it was like normal. Like I was like, there are ups and downs in every company, and like you kind of just go with the flow. And I feel like we always had a super close relationship. So you were always very transparent with me and your other employees about where you were, and like that we were good. So like I feel like because of that, I never really like freaked out or anything. I feel like too, like with the rise of like influencers, and then like the rise of my own social media, you were always super supportive of it, and you kind of like laid the groundwork for like how I viewed this as a business, which is interesting because like 7 years ago when we were working together, this wasn't even like as big as it is now. Like now the influencer industry is this whole other beast that people are still learning about and figuring out. I'm still figuring out all the different intricacies of it. But I feel like you were always like super, super supportive of everything that I was doing. And even when we parted ways, like we had a very honest and open conversation, and you kind of came to me and were like, there are 2 roads we can take, and I think you should take this one. And I was like, thank God that you did that, because if you hadn't brought it up to me, I don't think I would have had the courage to have like done it myself, you know? So I feel like it was a tough conversation to have and a tough realization to come to, but it ended up helping me on my whole journey. Yes. My whole path.
That was like a core memory for me. Yeah. Because I honestly I was very scared to call you because I knew where your heart was at that point in your career. And I knew if I opened up that door in that conversation that you were going to go down that path. And so I think, knew for quite some time that it was the right way for you to go. But I selfishly didn't want to lose you as a team member. Yeah. So I remember that day that I called you. I mean, I was like bawling.
I know, and then I started bawling too. I was
like, oh, this is like the end of an era. Yeah. But I knew it was time, you know? And I mean, look at the difference in, you were with the agency for what, 4 or 5 years? I mean, I had gone through like 4 jobs in the first 4 years. So, I mean, it is a testament that you stayed in that role for so long as well.
Yeah, and I was the reason that I did stay with the company that long was also because like I was learning so much, but also I was growing so much. Like I was like one of the first employees. So growing from that to then 10 employees, I like gained levels of experience that were way quicker than what I should have been. The titles that I had were much bigger than the title I would have if I was jumping from company to company. You know what I mean? Like I started as a coordinator, then I was manager, then I was a director. Like so like that's just not a thing that really happens that quickly in this industry. So it was helping build my resume, and then I was also getting so much hand-on experience because part of our company was working with influencers and managing them. And so I was learning about contracting and negotiating, and it was all stuff that I now apply to my current role, with my own business. So it was a crazy time, but it was all I ever knew. And it was the best experience for me.
Yes.
And I feel like you now, like, there's so many, like, we've both pivoted a lot. That's why, like, when we had this this panel that I had moderated, we were talking about, like, pivoting and stuff and the power of the pivot.
Yes.
And now you've pivoted again to this whole new world.
I know. So a lot of people assume that right now my full-time job is as a quote-unquote influencer and this new kind of book club hobby.
Yeah.
I often have to tell people, no, those are actually both just honestly like my passion projects.
Yeah.
I used to really want to make money on Instagram, and of course I would love to get paid to post stuff, but I don't know. I think I got really jaded to the industry, to be honest. There is this like one partnership I did that I think it just ruined it all for me.
Yeah.
This was like back in the day. I'm not going to say what the company was, but it was like with a grocery store.
Okay.
And I had to create content about like going shopping for groceries. And this was back when like photos had to kind of be like perfect. This was not like the messy Instagram and TikTok days. This was like picture perfect, like posed photos.
Yep.
And I literally like posed with like my shopping cart, like going into the grocery store, like look at me. And I just remember just almost like, I hate to say this, being like embarrassed that that's what I was posting about. I had a friend's brother reach out and be like, are you getting paid by a grocery store to like post this? And I'm like, you think I'm just posting this on my own?
You're like, this isn't for fun. This is work.
He literally was asking if I was just posting about going to the grocery store. I was like, so I don't know. That was almost, and that's my own fault. Like I should have been better at saying yes or no to certain partnerships, but it's so hard when a brand is like, we're going to pay you X amount of thousands of dollars, and all you have to do is post these photos on your Instagram with this caption.
Yeah, especially at the beginning of it all, like when it first started happening, and it's like, obviously you're gonna do that. Like, why? Who would deny like $10,000 to go post in front of Target? Like, you know what I mean? Like anybody's gonna do that, and so it gets really exciting But it gets to the point where, like, you do have to be choosy or, like, you, like, dilute your own brand. But I feel like you two, like, have a very interesting perspective on the influencer world because you saw it from, like, its infancy to, like, what it is now.
Yes.
So it's interesting to hear kind of, like, that full circle situation of, like, not like you're not retired from the influencer world, but
I sometimes think, though, not to say I don't want to say definitively I'm retired from like the sponsored Instagram world, but I look at my Instagram differently now. I look at it as more of a place that I can just truly share things that I love. I'm not being told what to post by a brand. Honestly, it's like photos of my New England weekend, or like restaurants that I've visited that I really enjoy. Or the other day I posted an Instagram story of like my family watching Air Bud. Yeah. And I was like, wow, this is a throwback. I love this movie. And then someone messaged me and was like, I actually was loving this. They're like, hey, so that one scene in Air Bud where the little boy's trying to get the dog to come out on the court, do you think that was vanilla pudding or tapioca? And it was such a specific question, but I loved it so much. So honestly, that is why I use Instagram these days.
Because
it
of
brings
pudding.
me yes, because of tapioca versus vanilla pudding arguments. But I just get so much entertainment through conversations like that, rather than being stressed about having to post on Instagram because a brand is paying me. And I know that sounds so privileged.
Yeah.
It really does. I know it is, but I didn't feel good about myself. I've gone back, I made sure on the contracts I could archive some of the posts because I don't want my like digital legacy when someone goes and scrolls back, even though I know they won't. That's like,
hey, they might.
They might. But I just didn't want that to be my like digital legacy footprint was that. So I've pivoted a bit. I really kind of have, I don't want to, again, like, because if Barnes & Noble were to come to me and say, hey, we want to do like a collaboration or sponsored post with you, like or Audible or something now in this book space that I really like, I would say, hell yes.
Yeah.
So it's just, I think what I'm posting and what I'm interested in, the community I'm building is much different than it was like 5, 6, 7, honestly, like 8-ish years ago.
Well, I feel like the beginning of influencing was about like community. And then for a long time, it kind of went away. It wasn't about community. It was about like aspiration.
I think completely went off course.
It was fully community based, and then it was aspirational living. People were looking up to people that they, had a lot of money or they wanted with the life that they had. And now it's kind of circling a little bit more back to community, I feel like, which I love the most, because I think people get confused and they think that the bigger following you have, the more money you make. In reality, it's the more engaged followers you have, the more money you make.
Absolutely.
It's not about, there are people that have 50,000 followers on TikTok or on Instagram that are making more money than people that have 1 million followers on Instagram and TikTok. And that's because their community is so engaged. So I feel like we're seeing the return of that in a way, at least with the people that I follow. Like, I follow people and I like feel like I'm a part of their community. Like, who are some of your favorite people to follow right now? Like, do you have people that you're like, get excited to follow?
Yes.
Or to see updates on their life?
So honestly, I have really kind of dove into this like book world. That is where a lot of my interests are. Is I just I was, at this very like hard point in my life, and I wanted a distraction, and so I started reading again. And then I started reading more and more and more, and I realized that when I would go on Instagram, because of the algorithm, it like knew what kind of content I was searching for and what was interesting to me. So I started to kind of follow these book accounts on Instagram and on TikTok. And I was like, wow, this content is so interesting to me. And it's not content that I have been following, in the past.
And it's not necessarily like consumer heavy, where it's like, they're not selling you like, buy my makeup, buy my skincare. It's
exactly.
Like, read this story.
Exactly. And so that's actually what I loved so much about it was I started to find this community in what you just said. I didn't feel like they were selling me. Of course, they were like, read this book, but like I could get that book for free at the library.
Yeah.
I could go onto Spotify and listen to it. Like they have the part of your Spotify, whatever membership is like you get all these audiobooks. And granted, I have fallen into consumerism and I do buy the books. But,
Same. I need a hard copy.
But that being said, I didn't feel like I was being sold on like, buy this, buy that, buy this, buy that.
Yeah.
Like it felt like a different type of community. So to answer your question, who do I follow these days? I have absolutely gone into like the book account world. But I actually think the people that I'm the most interested that I follow now on Instagram is honestly just like my friends and family. I ended up unfollowing a lot of influencers that just didn't bring me joy anymore. There's unless they were making me laugh, educating me on something, or was this someone that I had met and was friends with and that I really enjoyed?
Oh, you wanted to support.
Or that I wanted to support. I went down my list and was like, cut.
Let me do a cleanse.
Yeah. Well, because again, it's like, what's the point of following someone if they're not bringing you joy.
Yeah.
I felt like it was just cluttering my Instagram account. And so that's where I'm at now, is I am like totally enmeshed in this book world. Who knows, in like 2 or 3 years, I might have a different hobby.
Yeah.
You know, I know for a few years I was so into photography, and so I was following all these photography accounts, trying to get better at just being like an amateur photographer. But then I moved on to this new hobby.
I know you've lived many lives. You kept saying like I wore many hats, but you still do wear a ton of hats.
Yes.
What is something, since we've talked about your career a bit, what is something that somebody listening or watching, like what is your biggest piece of like career advice that you would give people?
That when you're in your 20s, you just need to grind. Mm-hmm. That
Seems like nobody wants to work these days.
So true. No, I just look back at that point in my life, and I really didn't have a lot of responsibility besides taking care of myself. I didn't have children yet. And it's like you have this like small amount of time from when you're like 21 to 30 before you really like move on to this like next chapter of your life, you know, where maybe you decide you want to get married, maybe you want to have kids, maybe you want to, you know, adopt a dog.
Yeah.
There's a lot that goes into being a dog owner. Maybe you want to move out of the city and live in the suburbs. And so a lot of like your life changes. And so when you're in your 20s, it's almost like the options are limitless. Like you have so much energy. You have so much time.
So much time.
And I just think that that's the time to like grind.
And to like experience, like go through like the highs and the lows of like each job you have. Jump around.
Exactly.
That's like when you can.
Totally. Absolutely jump around.
Yeah.
Don't like grind yourself into the ground, but like you're going to have to work hard, whether that's for a company that you're working for, or if you decide to go and start your own business, like you're just going to have to work really effing hard.
Yeah.
And then not to say that you don't have to work as hard when you're in your 30s and your 40s. Of course you do. But your life changes a little bit when you start to add these different like layers and components. You know, I used to be able to, in my 20s, like go to work, then go and work out, then shower, then go to dinner and network and, you know, do all these things and get home by 10 p.m. at night and then wake up the next morning and do it again and be fine. Now I'm like, by 6 p.m., I'm like, ooh, I need to get home. I need to get the kids dinner. I need to, like, they need baths, bedtime. I need like an hour to myself just to like read. And then I like pass out and I'm like, oh, I've got to do this all over again tomorrow at 5:30 a.m. But it's okay. I love my kids, so it's fine.
It's worth it.
Yes.
But it is an adjustment, and it's not an adjustment that a ton of people talk about. Like,
I agree.
There is a very hard transition from being in your 20s and, like, living the city life and just, like, having, like, everything at your fingertips to then, like, transitioning into the suburbs. And then it's, like, dog, kids, house. Like the house is its own beast. I don't know what I'm doing half the time with the house. It's
I know.
like it's the worst.
I have Jeff do it.
Yeah, same thing with me and Aaron. Like, I don't know what's going on. One thing we always talk about on the podcast is influencer X. I know you have an experience with so many different influencers and have followed so many. What are some of your icks that you either see online or have experienced personally? Like one I always use is like, I hate the unboxings of it all. Like I don't love unboxings.
But that's what was your claim to fame.
Well,
unboxing your nephew.
That was like the one that took off. But I just don't like the over consumerism of it all. Like just grosses me out. The setting up videos of yourself crying is an influencer ick. Like for me,
I cannot do that.
Like it just.
All right, I thought of one.
Okay, what is it?
And it's something that we talked about for a very long time.
Okay.
That. Not that you've done this.
Oh, I'm sure I have.
No, you have not. It is when you and I have spoken for a while, or we did in the office, about how you could absolutely tell when an influencer's content shifted when they were working a full-time job and then they decided to do it full-time. So, you know, you have influencers that oftentimes will work a full-time job and then they'll do their like influencing before and after work. So they are like hustling to get that content.
Yep.
The content they're posting, it's when like their audience is like pretty small and it's growing. Like they just want to be influencers so badly because they want to start making money. And usually that's when their content is the best.
Yep.
I feel like when an influencer gets to a certain point and they decide to go full time, that's not what annoys me or gives me the ick. It's when they start to get mad at their audience afterwards for not supporting them, saying, guys, this is my full-time job. Like, please click this. Please buy that.
Engage.
Yes. I want to be like, I didn't make that decision for you to go full-time corporate world with the influencing stuff on the side as your gig to now you going full-time as an influencer.
Yeah.
Like, no one made you do that. Like, you could have stayed in your regular job and done this on the side. But that's my ick, is when influencers start to complain and wonder, like, why is my audience not engaging as much as they did before? Or why am I not, why is the algorithm punishing me? And I want to say, okay, then you can go get another job. Like, you don't have to be an influencer.
And also, like, the problems are, like, that's such, like, privileged problems to have in your work life. Like, there are nurses and teachers that are struggling through work every single day. Like, I always say this is like the easiest job to ever have. Like, because you make your own hours, you shoot content when you want to. Like, there is working for yourself and being the only person at your company. Is so easy. And that's different from like a consultant that is like working on different projects for different clients. But this is the easiest line of work that has ever existed. And I feel so lucky to do it. If I can do it, anyone can.
If you ever post on your Instagram stories, guys, help me. This is my full-time job. I will call you up and be like, Hayden, shut the F up.
You'd be like, you lost it. And I lost the plot. Like, truly.
No, but I think that, again, that is what I think there is something a little bit off with the industry when people, again, like, leave a full-time job and they expect their audience to then fund their life for the rest of their lives. And that's where I think there's like that's where the thought process behind influencing just feels broken to me.
Yeah, and there's also the part of it where it's like they lose their relatability when they do decide to go full-time. And I think it's kind of twofold. Like, people who follow the creators need to realize, like, people can grow and change and shift their content however they want to, but creators also can't get mad that people unfollow and are no longer interested in their life. Like, a lot of people follow people for, like, workwear content. If you're not going into the office anymore, what is this workwear content that you're creating?
And you might not even know what people wear at work anymore. Because you're not even in an office setting. So it's, almost a detriment if you leave that space because, like, how can you be a thought leader and authority on workwear when you're just working from home? So it's very interesting.
Crazy. I could talk all about influencers with you for forever. You taught me everything I know about influencers.
Well, you taught me a lot, Hayden. So,
where can everybody follow you? Plug yourself, the book account, all of it.
Okay, so you can follow me at Robbin Mangano. My name is spelled with 2 B's. If you are interested in book recommendations,
you have good ones.
Thank you. I feel like we both really liked Song of Achilles. That was a very good one. You can follow my book account at Sunday Reading Book Club on Instagram and TikTok.
Anywhere else we can follow you?
No.
Isn't there Visit Situate, or is that Lizzie's?
Oh yeah, that's my sister and I.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to know where to go in Scituate or the South Shore, my sister and I have an account called Visit Scituate.
I love it.
She has kind of taken it over a little bit with her dog content, but that's okay.
I followed her goose account for, like, dog recommendations on the South Shore too.
She's been actually doing a very fun series. It's like her dog's, like, weekends in the South Shore.
I know, I just saw that.
And it's like all of the best beaches and restaurants and places to go. It definitely, like, brings out some people who don't agree with dogs in specific places, but hey, it helps with the engagement.
I'm all for the dogs everywhere.
Yes.
Are you kidding? Turk is my life.
No, I love it. So yes, visit Situate. And yeah, if you ever visit the South Shore, it'll, tell you some spots to go to.
It will. That's how I learned half the things about the South Shore was through your Instagram.
Love it.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching this week's episode of A Lot of You Have Been Asking. You can like, subscribe, comment on the podcast, Instagram, follow me, follow Robbin, follow my mom, follow everyone, and have a fabulous day.